What's up, my internet dudes and dudettes? I am Masterfeja here, post pre-release sealed for our little fine community here in Alberta, Canada, with Force of Will, obviously. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can tell by the card, the background, and probably the thumbnail once I actually make it and upload it onto YouTube that this is a Force of Will video. Anyway, guys, if you've seen the video already that I posted earlier this week with Dayman, him and I actually had a pretty good pull at the pre-release in our little card shop here. And I was really happy with all the new cards that came out for Raya, the fourth daughter of Mikage. Like, honestly, other than maybe Gill, without adding all that new stuff in that deck that I posted earlier last week, I think that maybe Reiya was like the second worst out of box starter deck ruler. So I was kind of looking forward to like all the new cards that were coming out for support for her. And aside from kind of leaving me unhappy with the massive lack of addition destruction, there's a bunch of stuff for Shayla's deck and like blue in general that let you bounce additions and stuff like that back to hand, but there wasn't enough just right out destruction of additions, which I think is something that they're going to be releasing a ton of later in this particular rotation. But hopefully it happens soon, just because, you know, Zero's Circle of Protection and what was that other one? Barrier Seal, stuff like that. It makes, you know, running any form of aggressive or grave recursion decks really difficult and really annoying. Anyway, so I managed to make a dual color white-black Reiya deck with a lot of old cards. Like, it's not all new cards by any stretch of the imagination, but there are a ton of cards that I'm using from the starter deck and a few cards from Ancient Knights. So let's get started. Obviously, the ruler is Reiya, fourth daughter of the Mikage. She is a vampire ruler. And actually, a cool thing, there's not too much in terms of vampire-specific tribal stuff that helps out, but there's a lot of cards in the new set, a lot of them specifically for like mermaids, and I think there was one or two for golems or something like that. Or no, not for golems, for the pandas that say if you control a mermaid, you get such and such ability as well. And Shayla counts as a mermaid both on her ruler and her J ruler side, so you don't even need a mermaid resonator because they don't use the word resonator in the actual name. But I hope that they do something for vampires along those lines where it says, oh, if you control a vampire, which she is a vampire on both sides, without using the word resonator in the effect lingo, you get such and such abilities. I think that'd be really cool, and I hope that they release that in the next few just like the next few sets, which I think would be really cool. Anyway, so she's Judgment for 3, 2 black and 1 colorless. And actually that's pretty low since the generic rulers that I've got a copy of from the pre-release kit all had to flip for 4, which was like, oh geez. So 3 to Judgment, energize just like every ruler after Curse of the Frozen Casket. Tap, put a mystery counter on this card, and then some interesting mystical gobbledygook at the bottom that we don't know yet. Then on her beautiful full art J ruler side, she's still Reiya, fourth daughter of Mikage. She's a very consistent gal. She's a 12/12 ruler with flying, which is phenomenal because one of the biggest pet peeves I had against Rezard was that he was a vampire J ruler with no flying. He's got wings on his art, but no flying. Anyway, so she's got, when this card enters the field, put 3 mystery counters on it, which is awesome. So you flip her for 3 and then you get 3 counters. And then as soon as you pass turn to your opponent, you can use her second ability, which is tap, remove a mystery counter from this card, destroy target resonator. And then another phenomenal gobbledygook at the bottom. But the cool thing about her second side gobbledygook is that it's actually a different set of symbols from her ruler side, which means that once we get an actual confirmation on what those symbols mean, she's going to have 2 different abilities, one on her ruler, one on her J ruler side, which is not the case for all of them. I think Shayla has it. I think that Gill has the same on both sides. I can't remember, but yeah, cool. So this is the ruler. I don't actually flip her to her J ruler side too often. If I find myself like turn 6 or onward and I've got nothing to spend my will on, I'll flip her to that side and then start like killing stuff indiscriminately, but I don't usually have to worry about flipping her too much. So we'll go into stones now, as is necessary. I am running 4 of Stone from the Dark Castle. It is a special magic stone. I treat this card as a darkness magic stone, tap to produce black. And when this card enters the field, put a mystery counter on your J ruler. There are a few resonators that came out with, actually no, there was one resonator that came out with the actual starter deck and then was reprinted for the Ancient Knights set, and a few or 1 or 2 new resonators that have abilities that when such and such happens, like enter the field or hits the grave or something like that, you add a mystery counter onto your ruler. But the way that I chose the mystery counter awakening abilities for this particular deck, you don't actually run out of mystery counters all that much. And then again, if you get to turn 6 or onward, you can just tap her for 3, or even earlier if you're not running too many high coster cards. If you make a different build of this Raya, then you can just flip her and get 3 right off the bat. So anyway, moving on, we've got 4, 3 of the Vingolf 2 and 1 of the ones from the Curse of the Frozen Casket. Magic Stone of Heaven's Rift, which counts as a light and darkness magic stone and can produce both. So 4 of those bad boys. And then you do gain a substantial amount of life in this deck, so I don't really mind running 2 of Gill Alhamat's white-black ancient magic stones, even though they burn you since you're not running Gill Alhamat as a ruler for 300 each. But that's fine because they tap for white and black. And then they've got a second ability with the whole remove a mana counter and produce any color, but we don't run any mana counters in this deck. So 2 of the ancient magic stones. Now, I'm thinking more than 2/3, maybe 3/4 of this deck is chants and additions. So it is a little bit light on resonators, but we have so much removal and so much hand control, you really shouldn't have to worry about stuff too much. Our first chant is 3 Scorn of Dark Alice, and these ones are actually first editions from back when Dayman and I did our box opening of the TTW boxes that we bought. And look at target opponent's hand, choose a resonator, they discard that card. And this is actually going to work really well with one of our 3 resonators in this deck, which is Dark Alice, Manifestation of Rage, because we want to fill our opponent's graves full of resonators. So this is a phenomenal turn 1 play. Just boop, get rid of a resonator that you think is going to be pesky either early on or later on, put him in the grave, and then I'll show you guys later why we need that for Dark Alice. Then I run 2 Dark Knight Butterfly. I've got the art from the Ancient Knights and the art from the actual starter deck with Raya. I don't know which one I like more. They're both cool in their own way. They actually show Raya larger on the Ancient Knights one, but this one shows a cooler version of the castle, which I hope becomes an addition later on, because apparently it was an addition way back in Alice, or I can't remember if it was Alice or Lake Grim, but it looked really cool. Anyway, so I used to run 3 of these, but I whittled it down because I needed the space, and this is Awakening for 2 mana counters, so it is a little bit mana counter heavy, and that's why I reduced it down to 2. So it's 1 black, your opponent discards a card, and if this card was awakened, your opponent discards 2 cards instead, which, again, its awakening cost is removing 2 of the mystery counters from your resonator, your J ruler, sorry. So running 2 of those bad boys. Then another staple for any hand control deck, I am running 3 of the Nameless Mists, which is a 1 black chant. Look at your opponent's hand, choose a non-resonator card. This card, they discard that card. Put a 1/1 counter on a resonator you control. This I don't like having first turn, because I would, ideally like to play it maybe 3rd turn or onward after I've played my Dark Alice, just so I can give her the 1/1 counters to go off of her ability. But again, it's a 1-drop, so if you don't get any other 1-drops and you want to keep kind of steady tempo with using up your will every turn, you can use it. Then I run 4. Now we're getting into our 2-drops. And then I've got 1 proxy, just because I only got 3 of them from my pre-release of the Ancient Knights. It is a 2-drop black chant. Apparently it's a mystery chant, but I'm not sure if that's going to be important in the future, just because right now we don't have anything like with the spirit chant magics or whatever, where you can sacrifice elementals to produce green for only that type of chant. We don't have anything for mystery unless they're calling a mystery because of the awakening cost. So I guess we'll see in the future. That's probably most likely the case, but who knows? So it's a 2 black drop chant. Draw 2 cards. This deals 300 damage to you. Now, I don't know if you guys are getting this as crazy as I am. Not to call you like stupid or anything, but like this is a darkness card that lets us draw. Like, how long have we been waiting for something like that? And it's also efficient too, because it takes up 1 card slot in the deck, or 4 when we're running a full playset of them. But it lets us draw 2 cards. And you're like, oh, Masterfeja, but hey, you're having to pay 300 life. But you're going to be getting a lot of health in this deck, which I will show you later on in the subsequent cards that I'll be revealing. And on top of that, it has a secondary ability. Whenever you're building a deck, you want to put in the staple cards that are good and you're going to be seeing in pretty much every Grand Prix and all that. But you also want to have cards that give you options, right? Things that do lets you choose from an array of possible options, or it does more than one thing. So that way you're actually efficiently using the 40 or so card slots in your deck. Anyway, so the awakening ability is remove a mystery counter, which I think is phenomenal that it's only 1, from your J ruler. Destroy target Resonator with total cost 2 or less. So in my mind, this is a great turn 2 play. You play this, you draw 2 more cards, you're back up to either 6 or 7, depending on how much you spent on your first turn. And you're pretty much guaranteed to kill one of the Resonators, because if it's turn 2, it's very unlikely that they manage to like magically produce 3 or 4, unless they were just like dropping mana dorks and stone ramping cards like crazy. Anyway, so I think this is great. It's one of the first darkness draw cards aside from Faded Reunion, which really isn't much of a draw card since you only do it for 1. It's more of a search. Anyway, so I run 4 of those. Then I run Alice's World of Madness, and I have no idea why I'm going absolutely bonkers with horrible pronunciation today. I apologize for that. It is our first edition, so Resonators gain -2/-2. So the reason why I run this is because of one Resonator that you'll see later on, and another chant that I'll show you guys later on. But just remember these guys. So it's a 1 white, 1 black, and it's just all Resonators, including your own, so don't forget to do that. Gain -2/-2. So I run 2 of these guys. Now for one of the first new cards, aside for the Blood Spray, we have Reconstruction. And I honestly didn't think I was going to be running any of the new Pandora themed cards, but I actually think this is phenomenal, and it works perfectly with that card that I just showed you, which is Alice's World of Madness. You give your entire field and your opponent's field just a base -2/-2. You quick cast thing for 1 white and 1 colorless, and target Resonator becomes a 0/1 until the end of turn. So it's a 2-drop quick cast kill spell that we have in this deck, and it's cool because it'll be for pretty much anything. You don't have to worry about stuff being 1 cost or 3 cost or 2 cost or whatever. And it's good for when you're going up against Resonators. I don't think there was any released in the newest set, but there used to be a lot of problems with Resonators that said this cannot be destroyed. So you're not really destroying it, right? You're turning it into a 0/1 Resonator. Unfortunately, unlike Water Transformation Magic, it still would have all of its previous abilities, but it's not you destroying it. You're just changing the state of the Resonator, and then the actual continuous -2/-2 to board is what's actually killing it. So if you are dealing with something, and I'm sure that they're going to release some sort of big baddie that says cannot be destroyed sometime in the future, that's going to be the combo you're going to want to use. Moving on, we have 3 of the 2 Dragon Princesses. It is a 1 black and 1 white, and this is another card that works phenomenally with that Alice's World of Madness. It's a quick cast, which is awesome because I like to fill my decks with as many quick casts as possible. You always keep your opponent thinking you've got something up your sleeve, and then it kind of makes them hesitate as to what they're going to be doing and what strategy they're going to take against you. They're usually a little bit less aggressive. So choose one. If you control a light J/Resonator and another darkness J/Resonator, you may choose both. Put 5 1/1 counters on target Resonator, or target J/Resonator gains -5/-5 until the end of turn. So if your board has just a base -2/-2 to everything, and then you have two, one white, one black, or whatever Resonators, which I'll show you guys later, you'll be able to put 5 1/1 counters, ideally onto Dark Alice, just because of her ability for when she leaves the field. And you'd be able to do a -5/-5 to something. Again, it's not destruction. If something has barrier, it won't work, but it's not destruction, so you can just forget about that. And like, think about it. How many Resonators will your opponent ideally have that are stronger than a 7/7, right? Like, think about it. Unless they're doing like crazy field buffs and they're doing just massive Resonators, but by that point it's probably already like turn 6 or 7, and you can just start hitting them with crazier stuff in this deck anyway. So I run 3 of the 2 Dragon Princesses. And as with any deck that runs black, I think that this has a lot of value as well. Not so much for drawing. You want to have the Resonators out on the field to be able to put something directly into hand, especially if you've got the mana to play it on the same turn. But it is still one of the best search cards in the game. Faded Reunion, 1 black and 1 colorless chant. Choose one. If you control 2 or more darkness J/Resonators, you may choose both. Search your deck for a card, then shuffle the rest of your deck and put that card on top of it, or draw a card. But obviously, if you've got the 2 J/Resonators that are darkness, it's just a search. You put it directly into hand. Now, this thing has been a ridiculously massive thorn in the side of pretty much any deck that requires the constant use of activated abilities for Resonators that they have on the field that are non-mana producing, or... Oh wait, no, this isn't the one that's non-mana producing. Okay, anyway, so I'll just read out the ability and then I'll talk about it. So it's 1 darkness and 1 colorless Neo Barrier of Shadows, and we've got Dark Alice on there. It's our 2nd edition in the deck. Your opponent pays one more to play activated abilities of Resonators they control. And okay, so I can't remember if this got eroded to be non-mana producing, because I remember that being a card. It might not have been this one, where if they're like tapping mana dorks to produce mana, they wouldn't necessarily have to pay 1 colorless to produce 1 green or 1 black or whatever. I think that'd be a little bit weird. But if anybody knows, just like comment in the comment section. I can't remember. And then it's got Seal 8, but with the Dark Alices that we have in the deck, it actually breaks the seal, so we can do this as early as turn 3 or 4. This card gains the following text: as long as you control 8 or more magic stones, your opponent can't play activated abilities. So this pretty much completely shuts down Keurig. It completely shuts down, what's his face? Gill's ability to sack elementals for spirit chance, green production. It shuts down, well, it would shut down Reiya if you're using her whatever counters. So pretty much shuts down all of the new rulers' ability to remove counters and do such and such, or to tap and search for thing to bring to hand, which they pretty much all have on their ruler side. And it would shut down stuff like Tree, like the new Yggdrasil, which has the tap 1 black, 1 green, whatever. I think it was 3 or 2, I can't remember, to grab such and such card from the removed area. And it would shut down, unfortunately, my favorite ruler, Gill. So this card is phenomenal, and this is another one of those cards that I wish there was more useful addition removal for, because like I'm running it in this deck, so it is to my benefit, but you know, like it's a pain in the ass whenever it's in any other deck, right? So unfortunately, I never bought the the starter deck from back in Curse time, so I don't have the Manifestation of Power, and they ran out of Vingolf 3 boxes pretty much immediately. I wanted to buy one as well, but the store that we used to frequent only brought in like 3 or 4 boxes, and they sold out immediately. So I don't have any manifestation of powers. Pretty much my only addition destruction is the, what is it? The Heavenly Gust or bouncing stuff back to hand, which really isn't much of a permanent solution. All right, then I run two of the 3-drop Castle of Oni, which is from the Mikage starter deck back in Curse Time, which is 2 darkness and 1 colorless addition. Darkness J/Resonators. Darkness J/Resonators, you control gain +2/+2, which is awesome because with Alice's World of Madness, our field as well is getting a base -2/-2. So having 2 of these and 2 of those kind of negate one another, which is awesome. And it's got a phenomenal second ability. And whenever I tell Damon that I want to put this into a deck, he always kind of just goes like, but it's a 3-drop and you have to sack it to get its ability, so it's not that good. But I think it's got a lot of value. So you can keep it on the field to buff your stuff and prevent it from the negative effects of that other addition for the field, or you can sack it. So tap, banish this card, put target card from your graveyard into hand. And there are a few cards in this deck that we only run 1 or 2 of, so this is actually pretty useful. I used to run 3 of these when I was testing this deck, but I found that running 2 and 2 of the Alice's World of Madness actually works really, really well. Then we have the addition destruction that I have in this deck and my Black Moonbeam ruler destruction, or J ruler destruction, which is Erasure, 1 black, 1 white, and 2 colorless. It's an ancient magic chant and destroy target non-magic card, non-magic stone card. So this is boop, kill your ruler or your J ruler, or boop, get rid of that pesky addition that's keeping me from swinging for game. So I run 2 of these, and with the 4 blood sprays, which lets me draw 2 apiece, and the 2 searches from Fated Reunion, there's a pretty good chance that I'll run into them. Then I run 1, and this is actually a full art that I pulled from the pre-release, Vitality Drain. And with the Castle of the Oni being able to kind of like recur 2 potential cards from my grave, this is actually not that bad having just 1. Or I can search for it, or maybe I'll draw into it. So it's a 5-drop mystery chant, 2 darkness and 3 colorless. Quick cast, which is phenomenal in my opinion, and the art on this is just bonkers cool. I don't know who she's killing. There's always like generic knights or something. I think that dude's a dark elf that is being just owned in these cards. Anyway, so target player loses 1,000 life and you gain 1,000 life. That's crazy. And then it's got Awakening, and this is the part that just makes me so ridiculously happy. Its Awakening cost, if you actually look, is only a single mystery counter. So you remove a single mystery counter while you're casting this thing for 5, and this card deals 1,000 damage to target Resonator. You drop this for 5, remove a mystery counter, you just dealt 10, gained 10, and did another 10 to a Resonator. Like, this is Value Town for days. 4 days, not even FOUR, like forever for days. Jeez. I don't know if I'd want to run more than 1, because it is decently high cost, and if you can get it back from grave, like, you're fine. And, okay, so I told you guys that we'd be gaining a decent amount of life. We've got this one, so we can possibly recur it a few times from grave. And then I run 3 Schrodinger's Observation. It is a chant. It doesn't have quick cast, unfortunately, which I think would have made the card a little bit too OP, but it's still pretty good. Choose 1. This card deals 400 damage multiplied by X to target Resonator, and you gain that much life. Or this card deals 300 damage multiplied by X to target player, and you gain that much life. So there's another one of those value cards that I was telling you guys where it gives you multiple options. You can play it pretty much any turn from turn 5 and onward to get the full value of the card. And like mathematically, it could be either just a little bit shy of the damage that you get out of Vitality Drain, or a little bit more, depending on whether or not you want to hit for game, or you want to remove a pesky Resonator your opponent has on the field and stay in the game because you've whittled yourself down to too low of a life total. So you get more value if you're doing it for the Resonator because you get 400 times X. But again, if you've got the open mana or the open will or whatever, I'm still in magic mode when I talk about this game sometimes, you can essentially hit him for 3 times X, and either case gains you that much life. So I run 3 of Schrodinger's Observation. Finally, we get to our Resonators. the backbone of the field, so to speak. I run 3, and this is the most important resonator in the deck. The rest are kind of just there to make sure that we fulfill the requirements for the 2 dragon princesses and just to kind of have board presence. I run 3 Dark Alice Manifestation of Rage. Now, I can lie to you and tell you the reason that I run 3 is because having 4 would be redundant, and there's no way you would ever get enough resonators into grave to be able to recur 4 separate times. But the truth is that I only have 3 at my disposition. So, sorry, at my disposal, not disposition. Goodness gracious, I'm throwing out words that don't even work in context. Anyway, so I run 3. This is not an English lesson, this is a Force of Will lesson. It is a 5/5 2 darkness drop called Alice Manifestation of Rage, not Ridge. It is a Wander Resonator, but that's not important. Will of Hope, also not important. When this card enters the field, remove all resonators in your opponent's graveyard from the game. For each resonator removed this way, put a 1/1 counter on this card. So you get a bunch of 1/1 counters for filling up your opponent's grave with resonators and then this thing hitting the field. But what works well in conjunction with her second ability is pumping up this resonator with a bunch of 1/1 counters from other sources, like the 2 Dragon Princesses or Nameless Mist. So when this card leaves the field for a non-field zone, which is phenomenal because if you're going up against somebody with the ability to play Barrier Seal, like for instance, you put this thing onto the field, you remove everything in terms of resonators from their grave, and then they put down a Barrier Seal because, I don't know, I guess it's just how they play, or maybe you're going up against Dayman's new Gill deck. If this thing leaves the field, it doesn't have to hit the grave to get the second ability. All it has to do is leave the field, okay? So put a 1/1 darkness or 100/100 darkness shadow resonator token on the field for each 1/1 counter that was on this card. Release the seal abilities of darkness cards and spells you control. So that works well with the Neo Shadow Barrier. And the cool thing is that, like, again, you pump this thing up and then suddenly you just made a massive board presence of 1/1s. The problem is that if you've got your Alice's World of Madness on the field, you pretty much just produced 5, 6, 7, who knows how many 1/1 dinkies that just died. So it is super important that if you're not playing the Oni's Castle before you play this thing, make sure that you don't have Alice's World of Madness on the field, or else you literally just worked really hard to bump this thing up to get a massive army of dinkies, and they all just like essentially just kamikaze themselves for nothing. They just go bloop, they just pop as soon as they hit the field. So this is 3 of that. Then I run 3 of a resonator that I've honestly never seen in any other deck profile, either in just somebody who is screwing around for fun or somebody who was actually reviewing a deck from like a Grand Prix or something like that. So, you know, it could be speaking negatively towards the value of this card, or it could just be saying that a lot of people have yet to tap the hidden potential of this card. So this card is called Fallen Saint. It is a human resonator, 6/6 for 1 darkness and 1 light. And it has the ability, whenever this card blocks or is blocked by a J/Resonator, that resonator gains -2/-2 until the end of turn. So let's say that you have this dude out on the field, you have a copy of Alice's World of Madness, and you have the Oni's Castle out on the field. The Oni's Castle and the Dark Alice's World of Madness, they kind of negate each other, so this dude would still be a 6/6. But when he blocks or when he is blocked while attacking, you just gave the resonator that blocked this dude essentially 600 damage from just doing combat, the -2 from your field edition, and an additional -2/-2 from this guy. So like, you pretty much just, whatever, that could have been like a 7/7, 8/8, whatever. You just gave it -10, -4/-4, and 600 points of damage. So I think this dude is actually pretty cool. And he's a darkness and a light resonator, which helps with meeting the double ability requirements for the 2 Dragon Princesses chant. Then the final 2 cards for this deck, and again, realistically, you don't need these. You could put in a second, third, or fourth slot of any of the cards that I don't have full playsets of in the place of these things. But considering the fact that we only have 3 Dark Alices and 3 of the Fallen Saints, you don't have enough Resonator presence. So I popped these two in here because they're actually not that bad and they meet the requirements for having bodies on the field and being both darkness and light Resonators. So it is a Fallen Angel, an 8/8 for 4, 1 darkness, 1 light, and 2 colorless. It is an Angel Resonator with flying. This is the only flying Resonator in the deck, and we unfortunately don't have any other way of producing flying. So it is a bit of a weakness, but considering how much removal we have, that's not too much of an issue. So it has the ability, when this card enters the field, this card deals 400 damage to target player, and you gain 400 life. So this is another one of those sources of life in the deck, and you gain 400, deal 400, and you've got an 8/8 darkness light body with flying. So it's not the greatest card in the world, it's only an uncommon, but I think it fills the final slot of the deck pretty well. Alright guys, that was my Reiya, 4th daughter of the Mikage deck. I don't know, I feel like I haven't been creative enough with the names on these recently. If you guys have any crazy names you could give this deck, I was thinking something along the lines of like Reiya's Fallen Saints deck, but that's just because there's that one saint dude and then there's like an angel in this, but he's not even an angel / demon, so I don't know, it's not a vampire deck. She's the only vampire in the whole deck. I might make a new Mikage deck that's vampire tribal, but I'd need to be able to find a way to get around barrier, especially if I'm going up against the light book or... Ooh-wee! Sorry guys, I got a call from somebody. I pretty much had to run up and down like 2 flights of stairs to get back here to the camera. Anyway, so this is my new Reiya deck. I hope you guys enjoy. I think it's going to be one of the first ones posted onto YouTube. All the other ones were pretty par for the course directly out of the box with a couple of minor changes. I think there's a way to make this deck pretty good running it. I was thinking of running it black, blue, green, but I might just be making it into a Shayla deck, which is phenomenally control based. I haven't really made a very control based deck before, but it's gonna have counters and taking control of opponents, Resonators, and the whole 9 yards. So I'm pretty excited about that. I haven't made that kind of a deck because you guys know my whole spiel about that. You know, you play Force of Will for fun. I do make competitive decks and stuff like that for when you really just want to make your opponent cry a little bit. But most of the time, you're just trying to have a good time with your friends and your opponents and all that. And if you're constantly going like, oh, hey, you've got a nice thing there, boop, give it to me. Or, hey, you know, those cards you have in your hand are pretty cool. Let me just get rid of them. Or, oh, hey, you know, like, hey, counter your stuff, end your turn, stuff like that. I've never been a really big fan of that, mostly because of the Magic the Gathering days with Teacher and Dayman and all of our play group in the past. It kind of ruined the experience a little bit. So, like, I mean, if that's the main win con of your deck, good on you, but I try to stray away from it as much as possible. Anyway, this is the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys have better ways of making this deck, please leave me some comments or leave me links to your own videos. I'd love to grab inspiration from other people's takes on how to work certain strategies. As usual, comments in the comment section, like, dislike, subscribe, do whatever you're feeling like.